Jake Miller was the kind of man who believed in doing the right thing, even when life had treated him unfairly. After losing his father and then his job in the same year, Jake had been living out of his beat-up Ford sedan, scraping together enough cash from small handyman jobs to survive. But when he got an email saying he was shortlisted for a junior associate position at Halston Enterprises, one of the biggest firms in Chicago, he felt a flicker of hope. The night before the interview, he parked outside a 24-hour diner and rehearsed answers in the mirror. He wore his only suit, a second-hand grey one he'd had altered at a local thrift shop, and tied his father's old tie with shaky fingers. At dawn, he drove to the city, heart pounding with nerves and anticipation. But as fate would have it, just blocks away from the office building, he noticed a luxury car pulled to the side of the road. The hood was up, and a well-dressed woman stood nearby, clearly frustrated and alone. Most cars drove past without a second glance. Jake slowed down. He pulled over, grabbed his jumper cables from the trunk, and approached her. "Excuse me, ma'am, need a hand?" The woman turned, her sharp features softening as she nodded. "I think the battery's dead. It just shut off out of nowhere." "No problem," Jake said, rolling up his sleeves. "Happens all the time." He quickly hooked up the cables and started her car. The engine roared to life, and the woman gave a short laugh of relief. "You're a lifesaver," she said. "Thank you." Jake smiled. "Glad to help." He waved goodbye and checked the time. Panic hit him in the chest. The interview had started 15 minutes ago. He jumped in his car and drove like mad, finally skidding to a stop in front of the sleek glass building. He sprinted inside, breathless and sweating. The receptionist looked up with disinterest. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for an interview, Jake Miller, junior associate role." She glanced at the clock. "Interview started 20 minutes ago. They've moved on." Jake tried to explain, but she was unmoved. "We expect punctuality," she said coolly. "Thank you for coming." Dejected, he turned to leave, shoulders heavy with disappointment. Every step toward the door felt like a punch to the gut. He had been so close to turning his life around. Then he heard the sound of heels clicking on marble behind him. "I hope you're not sending this man away," a familiar voice said. Jake turned to see the woman from the road entering the lobby, but now in a sharp navy suit, hair tied up, and with a commanding presence that made everyone pause. The receptionist blinked. "Miss Halston?" The woman gave Jake a smile. "Jake Miller, right?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, still stunned. She looked at the receptionist. "Reschedule whoever's next. I want to speak to him, personally." As Jake followed her through the glass doors, employees around the lobby whispered and stared. He had no idea who she truly was until they entered the boardroom, and she turned around with a grin. "I'm Rebecca Halston, CEO." Jake's mouth fell open. "You're the CEO?" "I was on my way back from a meeting when my car broke down," she said. "No driver, no assistant, just me. You stopped and helped me without knowing who I was, even when you had somewhere to be. That tells me more than any resume ever could." Jake didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long while, someone had seen past his worn-out suit and messy life. She saw his character. Rebecca smiled, gesturing to a seat. "Sit down, Jake. Let's have a real interview." He sat, heart still racing, not with nerves but hope. The moment he thought he'd lost everything turned out to be the moment that would change his life forever. Jake couldn't believe the turn of events. Sitting across from Rebecca Halston, the woman he'd just helped jumpstart her car, now revealed as the CEO of one of the most influential companies in the Midwest. He was trying to keep his composure. But it wasn't easy. She studied his resume with quiet attention, but what she seemed more interested in was him, the man behind the papers. "So, Jake," she began, "you missed a very important interview today, but you missed it helping someone else. Not many would have done that, especially when their future was at stake. Why?" Jake cleared his throat. "I guess I just saw someone who needed help. It didn't matter who you were. It was the right thing to do." Rebecca nodded slowly, impressed. You know, most people who come in here try so hard to impress me. Degrees, buzzwords, connections, but it's character that matters in the end. You can't teach integrity. Jake didn't respond immediately. He wasn't sure what to say. He'd been dismissed so many times in his life that this moment felt like a dream. Rebecca leaned forward. "Tell me about your background, no filters, just the truth." Jake told her everything. How his dad had taught him to work with his hands, how he'd taken night classes while juggling part-time jobs, how he'd been laid off due to budget cuts and ended up sleeping in his car. He didn't ask for pity. He spoke plainly, with a kind of quiet dignity that resonated deeper than any formal introduction ever could. When he finished, Rebecca just nodded, her expression unreadable. "You know what I see," she finally said. "I see someone who hasn't given up, someone who's honest, resourceful, and smart. I've built this company on those exact traits." She stood and walked over to the large windows that looked out over the city. "Years ago, I started Halston Enterprises from a basement with a $10,000 loan and 0 staff. I know what it's like to be overlooked, and I also know how valuable it is when someone takes a chance on you." She turned around. "Jake, I don't have a junior associate position anymore." Jake, his heart sank. That brief spark of hope started to flicker out. "But," she added, "I do have an opening in our special initiatives team. It's more advanced, a challenge, but I believe you're up for it." He blinked. "Wait, you're offering me the job?" "I'm offering you a career," she replied with a warm smile. "With mentorship, housing support, and training. You're not just filling a desk. I want to invest in people who invest in others. You did that today without knowing who I was." Jake's eyes burned with tears, but he nodded, swallowing the emotion building in his throat. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." Rebecca extended her hand. "Welcome to Halston Enterprises, Mr. Miller." Word spread quickly. By the end of the week, Jake had a new badge, a fresh wardrobe provided by HR, and an actual apartment key in his hand. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was beginning to live. But perhaps the most touching part came 2 weeks later. Jake was invited to speak at a company town hall, something no new hire had ever done before. He stood at the podium, hands slightly trembling, looking out at hundreds of employees. "I was supposed to be just another face in line," he said. "But one moment of kindness changed my entire life. I helped a stranger on the side of the road, and that stranger became my boss. This company didn't just give me a job, it gave me back my future." The applause was thunderous. In the crowd, Rebecca Halston smiled, proud not just of Jake, but of the values her company stood for. And Jake, he walked off the stage with a sense of purpose, finally knowing he belonged, all because he stopped to help, not knowing the road he fixed for someone else would lead to everything he'd ever hoped for.